Welcome to the She Ventures podcast, amplifying the voices of incredible women across the globe who are building impactful businesses, movements, careers, and leading purpose-driven lives. Together, we honor the sacredness within each of us and our ability to drive a global collective shift of positive change. I'm your host, Georgina Miranda, founder of She Ventures, social entrepreneur, speaker, adventurer, and activist. Join us as we share wisdom, get real, and inspire each other to rise, thrive, and live with integrity, authenticity, and intention. Today I'm thrilled to welcome Rupy Khatkar, a first-generation Indian American speech-language pathologist and now children's book author. In her debut book, Rupy and Papaji, Soulmates for Life, Rupy beautifully captures the special bond she shared with her grandfather, who taught her invaluable lessons of love, confidence, and resilience. Through her work with children and her passion for storytelling, Rupy hopes to inspire young readers to embrace their uniqueness, follow their dreams, and believe in themselves. I can't wait for you to hear her journey. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the She Ventures podcast. I'm Georgina Miranda, CEO and founder of She Ventures. And today I have the great pleasure of having friend, children's book author, and speech pathologist, Rupy Khatkar with us today. Rupy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk all things about writing a children's book, children's development, how they learn, the importance of representation, and your journey to writing the book, and also all the various messages that you have to share in this book that you wrote and published last year, correct?
Yep, in July.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is about me, kind of chronicles, growing up with a grandparent who immigrated from India at the same time that I was born. My grandfather, Papaji, so it's Rupy and Papaji, Soulmates for Life. He was just a really big influence in my development and growth as a child. We learned a lot from each other. And even though he passes away when I'm still fairly young, his lessons continue to teach me throughout my adolescence, eventually influencing my career. So I really just owe a lot to him, and he's just always been that special person in my life.
And your source of inspiration, it sounds like.
Yes, for sure.
And so tell us a little bit more about your career and what he inspired, because you're a speech pathologist and therapist, and for children of various ages, correct?
Mhm.
In California.
Yeah. So, I think one of the things I talk about is we taught each other language. So Punjabi was my first language, but I don't remember not knowing English either. I mean, I'm the youngest of four, so I think I picked it up pretty quickly. My siblings had a little bit of a harder time, but the youngest child, you're exposed to so much more. Thankfully, I picked it up quick, and just my neighbors, the kids I played with, all spoke English. So at a young age, my grandfather and I played this game where we would sort of go over vocabulary. I'd say the word in English, he'd tell me the word in Punjabi, and it was like we were just helping each other sort of grow and learn. And I think this, like, patience and just fun with language is something that never left. And so um yeah, I'm kinda not surprised I do what I do. I'm like, "You know what? It felt right." And I think I didn't always know, and in college, I kinda stumbled across it, as I changed majors a few times, but I instantly knew when I, like, observed a college, like, a graduate clinic where, they were working with clients. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is for me. I could do this." So I think
And
it was.
maybe there's parents or people listening that don't really know what a speech therapist and pathologist does. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? And How
Yeah.
do you help children across the board that you work with?
So, yeah, the cool thing is we work with the whole lifespan. So, birth to honestly at old age. So, for example, I've worked early intervention is for birth to 3 year olds, and this is where typically like these kids aren't speaking around 1 year of age. So, developmental milestones, kids should start saying their first words around 1 year, combining two words around two, short phrases around three. By 5 years old, like a child is supposed to be a pretty independent communicator for the most part. Um, but yeah, so early intervention, I worked with kids as young as 19 months. And referrals are getting better now. Like there's more awareness about just language delays. Um, Early intervention is so important in correcting and building language because, you know, plasticity and learning is from birth to 5. It's just so crucial. It's just such a crucial time period. So you can make a lot of gains with therapy at this age. So it was amazing to see in just a couple of months how different the kids were and like how much they were expanding and learning just within a couple months. Um, yeah, and then going on into school-aged kids, in America, we have laws that, um, are established to help kids with, special needs. Speech therapy falls under that, um, and in America, we have a law about having a free and appropriate public education. So if a child needs that service, um, the school district provides that. It's a responsibility that we have. So, which is great. And they get that as a part of their school day. So we work with all school aged kids through high school. And then for some students, we even service them until they're 22, um, who have more significant needs. So, yeah.
How did your work influence you wanting to write a book for children?
So, I mean, books are such great tools for language. I mean, they always have been, right? We grew up reading books, talking about them. There's so much you can do. There's so much learning that takes place with just reading a book. And sometimes it's not even reading, it's talking about the picture, it's describing what's happening. And there's just so much language that you can build upon by reading a book, both receptively, like understanding, and expressively, like being able to describe and share your thoughts and ideas about it. So I think I'm going on my 11th year now working in the field, and I'm always on the prowl for like books that represent not only cultures but also just topics, like life topics, right? Because um, we want to match books to our students. We want them to feel seen. We want them. We want the idea to be something that resonates with them. So I think it's just so important to have diversity in children's books for all those reasons. Um, and specifically, being a first generation woman myself, I didn't always see myself in books as a child. I didn't see uh, people or characters who look like me. Um, and I realized, that was lacking. And then also for the other parts of the book that talk about loss, I think that's important. A lot of kids experience this, and how do you navigate that? It's hard. And I lost my grandfather when I was 7, and it we didn't have a lot of time together, but I wish I would have had a book that maybe talked about loss and how it happens and how to deal with it. And um also I share a little bit about a family dynamic, not having a father who was always present and emotionally there for us. So I was so grateful to have my grandfather for that reason. He was really the man in my life. So just also to talk about that because these things are not only just sometimes discussed in general, but I know specifically like with cultures, it's also really different how different cultures approach these topics. So I think just being honest and a little transparent about some of these things, and if it helps other kids, like that's my true hope is that they would feel not alone.
Yeah, no, it's really making me reflect back on the books I might have read when I was a child, and I'm also first generation in the United States. My parents are from Latin America, and yeah, I don't remember seeing any books that really like spoke to me either. Obviously, there's been a lot of progress now, and I know in the areas you work with a lot of bilingual children as well.
Mhm.
And so, it is really important to for children to feel seen, and I think also to give parents tools because especially first time parents are trying to learn as they go also, right? There's lots of books written on parenting, but ultimately you learn through that journey of being a parent. And so giving them a tool as well to introduce these topics in
Exactly.
a way.
Yeah, I mean, a book can be the first step in bringing up a topic, right? And then it kind of starts that conversation, I think.
Yeah. And how has the book been received? So I know you got to read it at your own school, right?
I did. I went back to my elementary school, Walter White Elementary in Ceres, California. That was my place, my special place, and it was so special to go back there. The book came out July 3rd, so over the summer, and I read it with the summer school kids at that time, and then just went back in the fall to do a whole school-wide assembly, which was so sweet. So that's been really nice. It's been really, really sweet to go back to, where I came from and share it with those kids. They seem to really enjoy it. So,
Yeah, and how has it been received? Like I always like see your comments on Instagram, really beautiful notes from families and on LinkedIn, and so share with our audience.
I'm so grateful. I think it's been received really well. And I love that it's just a variety of families, like all different backgrounds. The book is for everyone. Um, you know, eh, it's it's going to connect with everybody for those reasons that we talked about, like having a grandparent or having a family member who lives far away, or learning and just developing with a caretaker who might not be your mom or your dad. Um, it's been really sweet. The messages I've gotten, reviews that have been written, just parents are enjoying it with their kids and the kids ask for it and they like the illustrations and I'm really happy.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And I always think it's important to speak like our vision into the universe. And so, what's your vision for this book? You launched it. I'm going to dive into more questions around self-publishing and that whole process because I think it's important. And maybe there's someone listening to the podcast that has a dream of writing their own book. But what is your share your vision for this book, and who it's going to reach and the message that you hope it shares?
Well, I think I just want it to reach obviously as many children and families as it can. It's for everyone. And I think just the message of believing in yourself, following your passions, knowing that even if you lose someone special, that you still can go on, you still can achieve and accomplish what it is that you're meant to do, and that you know, challenges and personal differences are not limiting to you. So, um, yeah, I hope it gives kids, adults that just belief in themselves to keep going, and that, you're still capable of accomplishing everything despite, like, hardships you might have.
Yeah. And also despite, being different or whatever
Mhm.
background you come from too, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Um, so let's dive into belief systems a little bit before we get into the, details of bringing this book to life, because I always say that our belief systems really they shape our experiences that we have in our lives, right? So whether we believe something or we can't, right, will shape our experiences. And so writing a book is daunting for a lot of people, right? And it takes time and it's a process. So let's talk about your own personal belief systems, and that process. Was it an idea, and then was there any part of you that was like had reservations about like putting it out in the world? Like what did you have to like overcome to be like, okay, that's it. This message has to come out to the world. I'm doing it. Let's go.
This is a great question, and honestly, yeah, it is daunting, right? Like, I had the idea. Number 1, my first, thought was, I just love my grandpa. I just love that man. He was such a big influence in my life. I just wanted to do something to share him with the world because he's always been that person for me. Um, but then, when you open up and share about personal, things that have happened to you, it is daunting, and I was a little nervous to bring up the topic of having a father who wasn't always happy, that created a not so pleasant home life for us. I was worried about, whether I should share this or not, but again, I think, um, honesty is just so important, and if if I share this, right, what's the benefit that it could have? It could really help a child feel seen. Not everyone is fortunate to have 2 loving parents in a home. Not everyone is fortunate to have a mother or a father. Our family dynamics are so different. Um, and I just wanted to highlight that, love and inspiration can come from any adult in your life. And I just really felt like I needed to share that. Yeah, and I think it's such a blessing to hear that it's been well received. Like, that's what I was hoping for. That's what I wanted. And it's gonna connect and I think resonate with exactly who it's intended for.
Yeah. And take us through this journey. I mean, we touched upon a little bit about the belief system, right? But like that moment where you're like, okay, we're gonna start this book writing process. And you've never written a book before. There's all these different choices you can make when you're publishing a book, right? Whether you want to self-publish, go with a publisher, do some kind of hybrid version. And so maybe take us through that a little bit and, what came first? Did you just write the book first and then decide, or how did you go about it?
Yeah, so I obviously had no idea what I was doing, but I kind of started with like an outline of, okay, these are the points I want to cover, right? I want to talk about this and this. And I think that was really helpful just to sort of figure out, okay, what's this story going to really be about? And then once I kind of had those points down, then it was just a matter of making the language flow. Um, and it was a process, a lot of revisions, um, a couple drafts, for sure. It did not come out all at once. Um, and then once the manuscript was good, then I was so lucky to be connected with a very good friend's daughter who very talented young lady, Janae Lawson, who's my illustrator. Um, she wanted to do this with me. So then we just sort of went page by page, talked about illustrations. She took notes. All right, this is what we need for this page. This is what we need for this page. She was so receptive to everything I was telling her, and really executed like my vision. Illustrations are such a big part of a children's book. They have to be engaging. It has to be interesting and well done. And I think she did such a great job. I'm so happy with every illustration in this story. I think it really truly represents what I'm talking about, and I couldn't be more happy. I think Janae did a great job, and she was maybe 20 years old at the time, like young talent. I was just so impressed with her.
Yeah, that's amazing because
Um,
there's so much trust that goes into this process, right? You have this story, you have this imagery, I'm sure, in your mind and how you want the story told.
mhm.
And then you're sharing this with someone and trusting them to bring that to life in some capacity. So it is
Absolutely.
really, for anybody considering writing a children's book, that illustrator is a critical part to the
Oh,
equation.
I would totally agree with you on that. Like, yeah, just exactly that trust and taking notes, and really someone who honors what you're telling them and wants to um bring that to life, and of course she had her own suggestions that were great. So really, I just feel really lucky. We were a great team. We took a lot of feedback from each other, and it ended up being so. I'm so happy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for anyone listening, so if you have a book idea in you, it is a process, and it's learning, right? So it's giving yourself some grace to discover what makes sense for you, because depending on what you want to write, there's like a completely different process for every single kind of book. So today we're focusing on children's books. And Rupy decided to self-publish, right? So
Mhm.
what was that process like? Because I was also learning something else entirely, right? And being able to now put it out to the world where anyone can order it.
Yeah, I think for me, I just decided, okay, I'll go with something that seems fairly simple, a little more straightforward for me. I wanted to get the book out. I didn't want to wait. So I thought this was the best way to go. So I just went through a KDP, to Amazon, and it's a fairly simple process of just uploading, kind of following their steps. Um, you pretty much just upload your book, and there's the sections you have to complete about like the subject matter, the age range, all of that kind of stuff. But it's pretty straightforward. Um, and it's there. So it seems to be. I also wanted it to be accessible, and I thought, well, I think Amazon is pretty accessible for most people. So um that's that's been working out. And then I'm also able to, get my book and have it in independent bookstores if I'd like. So that's another option. You can always do that. But it varies, I think, from bookstore to bookstore. So just something you have to do a little more investigation on your end. But yeah, it's on Amazon.
Great. So if people want to buy the book, we're going to share all the links so they can obviously go to those links and get the book. Right now, it's currently through Amazon and
Yep.
being hopefully introduced to bookstores around the country. So if you're a bookstore owner and this is sparking some interest, like please definitely reach out to Rupy. And I do want to just go back to this theme of believing, because I think that there's so often where we have these beautiful dreams inside of us, and it just takes that spark of belief to like actually take action on it. And just because you haven't done something before, just because you might not know how it works, it's okay. It might take you a little longer, but ultimately it's being really connected to that why, that bigger purpose. And Rupy, I love all the reasons why you chose to share the book. And, you know, also just going back to this theme as well around children's development, right? And like the influences that they have in their life and the power of books. It's really, really incredible with so much technology around us, right? Can you maybe touch on that a little bit? Like this balance that maybe a lot of parents are like, they just want the iPad or they just want whatever it is, because I'm sure it's like starts so early. So this book in particular is from, you said, ages like 5 to 7-ish, right?
Yeah, about 5 to 7. Um, and you're right. I mean, I think books are, just they're number 1, we with technology now, it's a challenge from a young age to limit time. I'm not against certain shows and programs that are educational for kids. I think that's great. I mean, we grew up, my generation was Sesame Street kids. That's what we watched. Amazing, right? Love that. But I do believe that there's definitely too much going on now, and we're kind of getting away from concrete things and holding objects. And I mean, literacy begins from birth. I mean, a, a, to- just a toddler can know how to orient to a book. They know right side up, they know to hold it, they know to turn the pages. Like these are skills that we look for um, when we're looking at literacy and development in young ages. But I think, yeah, even I'm currently working with middle schoolers, and it's just as big of a challenge to get them off their phones, to read for 30 minutes a day. It doesn't stop. The need for reading and just how crucial it is for building your skills. Um, it's just necessary. Reading is a part of our lives, and it should be from a young age. And it's definitely something that we have to make time for. We have to have limits on our phones and technology. Um, this book is a great way for kids to get away from that and discuss and have conversations rather than be on some technology.
Yeah. No, I think that's something powerful right around like story time, right? It could be something really special before bed, like an intimate bonding time where there's no distractions. It's just maybe you and your child to just sit together, share a story, right? And talk about it afterwards as well. Like I imagine like the critical thinking skills and things like this, or just like expressing emotion, right? Like how'd that make you feel? Or things like this that are important that you might not get from just watching something and, scrolling on to the next thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, yeah, routine, right? Establishing these reading routines, whether it's bedtime, after school, whatever it is. Um, and I think one of the best messages I received was a friend said, "Oh, my son, after he heard the line about, oh, he came all the way from India, he walked over to his globe in his room and was looking on his globe to like find out where that was." And I thought that was so sweet. It was like, "See, there you go. Like it's real life moments of learning. Like we don't need technology all the time. We can use what we have around us." So I love that.
Oh, it's super special. Yeah, what advice would you have to parents right now that might be struggling with this topic and how to create space for maybe more curiosity and more excitement around books?
I think routine. Like we said, growing up I used to go to the library once a week and I looked forward to it. It was, usually on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. It was a routine. I was going to go every week. I got to check out my book. I think just establishing some routines around books. Um, Go to the library, or do you go to that bookstore, um, or taking the book to the park, or taking it to grandma or grandpa's house, or where are they going to have some routine with this? How are you going to fit it into your life? Um, and also just making time. I think having limits of um, TV and other games, there should just be reading time. We used to have silent reading in school,
Mhm.
and I think the same thing can be done at home, just creating time for that, having a quiet space for them to do that in, and just I think the biggest thing is just consistency and routine, having it a part of your week, your
Yeah.
day.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, and I know it's easy to take it for granted, right? Like somehow it'll just happen, but you have to be intentional about it for sure. So, well, I'm so excited to see your book continue to be shared with audiences wherever they may be that choose to get it. And also, you've been doing speaking tours at schools. So, if anyone listening wants to bring Rupy to their school, like that's another option. And your Instagram and your LinkedIn are always like up to date on the latest like events and things like that. Because you've also like spoken at different stores and bookstores already. And so, yeah, if you're interested in following Rupy's journey, I'll be sharing all of that. And you did share with me a little bit that there's a second book in the works now. So, do you want to give us a little preview?
Sure. It's in the very early stages, but this will be about a little girl and her feisty, fun French bulldog and how they learn from each other. So,
Oh, amazing! Oh, I can't wait to read
aiming
it.
aiming for a late spring, early summer release.
Perfect. I love that, and I think it just, like, again, speaks to the power of, like, belief, right? You believed in yourself, you got this book out in the world, now there's the next book, and who knows? Like, and that's how everything begins.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, one step at a time. So, thank you all for joining in and listening. I hope for any parents listening today, it also shed some light on some new routines you might wanna introduce. And Rupy, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us. And I can't wait to hear and read more about all the good things to come.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun, and yeah, I hope it's helpful to others who are thinking about doing similar things and getting out there and just sharing their passion with the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And until our next episode.